Well, hello traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little. This is your daily Neoclassical TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets, doing it from a Neoclassical perspective, meaning we're looking at supply and demand on the charts. We're using it to determine trend, to determine timing, to manage portfolios, to educate, to show you how to fish, not to have fish thrown at you. And if you want to learn more, you can write me personally, TAT@tattoday.com. and I'll get with you, or you can go to the About Us and go to the Contact Us and give us a holler that way as well. We got a unique program here that we try to teach. We try to show you how to manage your own portfolio, how to get your money working for you instead of you working for it. As far as these markets, let's take a quick look at them. You got Trump with the union address tonight. We'll see how much detail he wants to give or does not want to give. The key thing here tonight is going to be about details. Can we get some details out of this man about what he really is or isn't going to do? Gold and silver, they were slightly up on the day. That was after a move down yesterday. Oil was about the same. So you had some defensive rotation as money came out of the indexes. Russell got hit pretty hard here, 21 points, 1.5%. Very sloppy action in that one still. You got some selling elsewhere. Overseas had some gains. Now, if you look at that Russell, you see volume expanding on all these indexes today. So a little bit of money, getting a little safe, a little pre-sell the news, it seems to me, as this comes back in, test the swing point high again. Now, in Neoclassical, when you test a swing point high multiple times, each time you come back, odds increase that, in fact, you're going to break this thing down. First test was up here, second test was there, then you pop way up here. This is your third test. Third test holds about a 30+% probability that you're going to actually bounce one more time. So the probabilities are not in your favor now on this index. Odds are suggesting here this market's probably going to have a tougher time. If we look at the broad Nasdaq Composite, also sloppy action again today with volume expanding. You go straight up, you do some sideways action. This is trying to build out a range now. If you look at the NDX, now the NDX has been holding up better. It's the top 100. And you got kind of an even split between 3 or 4 major stocks, the stocks and the biotechs. Again, building out a range. S&P, that's the one that keeps hanging. That's hanging mostly because of financials. Again, volume expands, you trade down a little bit. This looks to me like you're going to build out a range here as well. So across all these indexes, it's starting to look like it's much more range bound than it is straight up as it has been of late. If we look at the world indexes, because with Trump doing what he's going to do tonight, we're going to see some action there. And if you look at most of these are sitting towards their highs. I'll just put the weekly charts over here too. If you look at the SEC, which is the Chinese market, volume expanding, you got a high volume high there, you're touching into it with as much volume. That looks like it's going to try and trade higher. If I look over at Europe, Switzerland to start with, Switzerland hanging up here at the highs, does a retest, attempting to regenerate. Problem is when it came in, it had pretty good volume. We'll see if that can regenerate or not. That one's kind of a little toss-up right now in my mind. If I look over at the German market, that one also fading back in. Here's your swing point high. There's your breakout on it. This, not only did it test, it got up underneath. And let me draw it in for you here. It got up underneath that swing point high. Then it trades right back over it, right to it, and just barely hanging there. I think tomorrow you're going to see this thing come back. And what that's going to say to you is that what has been this is more than likely that, and that's going to pull up another test of a lower swing point high, which is down here. And that's where your swing point high break is if you're going to get the break. And you need a break on this one, because if I pull over the MTTFs, what you're going to see is 85%. This thing's extended, needs a break. And sure enough, the charts are starting to look like that's what's going to happen. If we look at France, the French CACs, that one too has had a pretty good run. And it also has been doing a topping type pattern. Let me click it again. Maybe I didn't click it. That one had also been doing a topping pattern. Now it's also starting to pull back. you had the same sort of thing here. And a lot of times one market will tell you something and then another. There's a swing point high. You can barely see the H there because they got that red. That's the bar. That broke this high. So when it came back to test, what did it do? Get up underneath it, stay underneath it, had some decent volume. This one's going to try and trade lower, folks. So you got the CACs wanting to trade lower. DAX probably trying to trade it lower. As the Swiss index, is a little bit stronger, but it probably gets pulled down by the rest of these. Europe looks to trade lower off of whatever comes out of this Trump speech. So that's the world indexes. I want to pop over to the two markets where a lot of members exist for TA today. The all ordinaries over in Australia. If you look at this guy, I was looking at him right before I came on to see what it looked like. This went up and tested the top, right? Failed on price. In other words, got over back under, but had more volume. I don't believe this one's going to cave in. You could do a whole range down here. You got some good volume in it today. The swing point high that was broken here is this one. And so if we draw in the retest regenerate, this is the key area here. Looks to me like it's going to try and test it a full retest regen because it had the volume coming in today. And so what I would expect is that it tests that low, and if it can regenerate from there, you're going to have a nice ABCD structure to try to break over the top. Now the other case, right, that would get you up over it. The other case is that this doesn't hold, which says that this move up is no longer in effect, right, and that you're going to move sideways again. And so that would say you probably try to test the bottom of that range. That's Australia. Let's look at Toronto. Toronto, we got a lot of folks from up north, and this one had a massive little sell-off here, didn't it? I didn't even know that it had been that serious. So that one broke, well, that's kind of interesting. That one broke multiple swing point highs on the way back, these retest regens. And so those retest regens breaking on the way back suggest that, what was up, which was what was going on here, right, is no longer that. It's probably this at best. And as you can see, sometimes it actually becomes the opposite, and that's what you got here. Swing point low is there. And if I pop over, look at my MTTFs, 73% says it's going to reset. Does it tonight. That's going to get you reset. That's probably going to lead to a bounce. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Yeah, this has been on a nice move. And so this could actually retest, regen into a swing point high that's off the chart over here. And usually when they're off the chart, I don't try to figure out what they are. 15176 looks like the number on the downside, worst case, and it's got some volume coming down. So I'd be cautious, let it come down that far, and look at it there, and then look at it again into this zone. You can actually kind of see zones on the way up. You can see how this one traded this swing point high and then traded around it for quite a while and then broke out. And then you get kind of a straight up move here, right? So I wouldn't be surprised to see it make it back into there. First place is that number I just told you about off of this bar. That number again, 51176, and then the other one is about 14855. Okay, so what are we expecting here tonight? I believe we're due for another one of those rests, right? Some consolidation. So as I talk here, I'll pop back over to the indexes, and as we do that consolidation, the question becomes, how deep will this thing travel? In other words, when you finally set back, how deep are you going to go? Well, the fact that when we broke out here, we just kept going, it gives you a lot of room to come back and still be quite bullish. First area is these three bars. Next area is down here. This is a nice buy down here if it makes it that low. Don't know that it's going to make it that low, but then we'll have to see what it really wants to do. And a final wrap up on the gold market here. I had been asked about, I guess it was about a week and a half ago, that not so much asked but told, hey, this looks like one of the examples in your book when I was talking about a ABCD structure setting to the north on this guy. And if you remember at the time, I believe we were in this area here when the note came out, so it was about 2 weeks ago. And the retest regen was right there, and that's where your support zone was also at the time, still is. It retested into it just barely, I believe, if I remember right. Got to 116.15. That top was 116.17, 2 pennies. So you test into it by 2 pennies right there, and then you come back and you try to test it one more time, can't get into it, and what does it do? It pops up and off to the races. So now the ABCD structure that was really from here, now a lot of people would draw it different. They draw it from this one, and it's not really correct in my mind, but the ABCD structure that was there is in effect. It goes up to about 120, I think it's about 123 or 4. That one's in place. You got a little consolidation taking place here now. You could get a little nested ABCD structure, which just completed. So in other words, we could get another little pullback back into this swing point high, another retest regen, if you will. And from there, get the nested ABCD structure to take you up to the higher area. That's gold. Gold's doing exactly what you thought, or what we thought it would do when we talked about this, and actually when the note was made. Come back, do your retest, take off again. That's what it's done. You got volume, came into this up here. This is kind of an area that you want to see it hold and make the rest of the run on the way up. And a lot of times gold does more than a 1-to-1. Let's take a quick peek at the weekly. Yeah, you'd love to see this thing this week get into this bar and make it, you know, if it can get, a lot of times when you're looking at resistance like this, you've got a number of bars you can look at. You got this big bar over here, that was this bar. Once you got over it, it was pretty good and you held. You got the top of that bar as well, right? That's where all your volume is. And so this is where you really want to get over. If you do, then these are game on up to here. And that's your big resistance zone. And that's where you got to take your profits, folks, or at least some of it. Tonight, the speech. I doubt we're going to get details. Market's a little sloppy. I suspect you're going to see this thing try to trade down finally. And if it doesn't, it's once more going to be telling us, hey, I'm a lot stronger than you think. But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see it try to trade down finally. Have yourself a great night. And again, if you're interested in what we do, and you really want to learn how to do it yourself, you can pop over here and check us out. And, you know, if you want me to manage your money, I do manage money. Just give me a holler. Take care. Good night.